Okay, so this is the mole calculation worksheet that you all got today. Uh, so what I want to do is I want to go through some of these problems and show you how to solve them. Um, One thing you do need to have is always a periodic table, and you will need your mole conversion chart also. That was the orange one. So here we go. So one thing that you need to be looking for when you're trying to solve one of these mole problems is find out what they're asking you to find and what they're giving you to start with. Well, one thing I do know is that they're asking me to find how many moles of something is, how many moles. So that's what you're trying to find, and 15 grams of lithium is what they're giving you to start. So in order to start solving this problem correctly, let's write down what we do know what we have. They've given us 15 grams of lithium, and then we want to set up our little T-chart, I guess you can say, railroad tracks, some people call them. And then we want to know what we're trying to find, and there's our moles right there. We're trying to find how many moles there are, so let's put moles way down at the end over here. And so all you need to do now, since you know what you have to start with, and you know what you have to end with, then you need to go to your flow chart, and we'll find that really quickly. There, my flow chart, and there we go. Okay, so we were given the mass of lithium, 15 grams, and mass is this part down over here, always in grams. And we need to get to the mole, which happens to be right here in the middle. If you can see me starting to outline it. So we have to go from mass all the way to the mole. And so what you need to do is you need to look at your side of the road and the arrow that you're following to get there. And as we follow that arrow is telling us, that direction is telling us we need to do something with our problem. So we have to write 1 mole over the molar mass of lithium in order for us to solve the problem. So let's go back to that. And so there's our problem again. We have 15 grams of lithium. We need to write 1 mole of lithium over, and the molar mass from lithium is 6.94 grams. Okay, and so now that's for lithium. And so what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to see that my units cross off here, and I'm left with moles on the top of the problem. When I solve this, this is a division problem. As you can see, the 15 and the 6.94 are diagonal from each other. That means division. So it's 15 divided by 6.94, and if you do this, it actually turns out to be 2.16, and that's moles of lithium, so you want to make sure you box your answer. And it's that simple. Uh, Another one is the second problem here. We are starting with 2.4 moles of sulfur, and we're asked to find how many grams there are in 2.4 moles of sulfur. So let's write down what we know, 2.4 moles of sulfur, and draw railroad tracks, and then we have to write down what we're trying to find, and that is grams of sulfur over here. So what we have to do is go back to our flow chart. We know we're starting with moles here. We're ending with grams down here, which is mass. And so go back to our flow chart, starting with moles, ending with grams, which is mass. And so we're starting here in the middle this time. And so we're at mole, and we have to go all the way to mass over here. And so along that arrow, you find this arrow and follow it. It tells you that you have to put the molar mass of sulfur over 1 mole of sulfur. So we can go back to our worksheet and do that. 1 mole of sulfur goes down here, and the molar mass of sulfur. And if you don't remember how to get the molar mass, all you need to do is go to your periodic table. We look for sulfur, and sulfur is right here. There's the molar mass. We're going to call it 32.07. We're going to round to the hundredths. That's what we're doing for this assignment. And we're going to go back to the worksheet and make it a little bit bigger. 32.07 grams of sulfur. And as we always do, we need to cross off our units. that one, and that one. We're left with mass on top, grams, and that's 2.4 times 32.07, and that would get you 76.96 grams of sulfur, I believe. So you can check the calculations on that, but I think that's what it is. So for all those problems, all you need to do is find out what you're starting with, what you're ending with, have your periodic table with you, and your flow chart, and you can solve these problems. And there's one more I wanted to do, make sure that down here at the bottom, when you are calculating molecular weights, that you're using your periodic table again. And I'm going to give you one example on how to solve the molecular weight for sodium hydroxide, number 9. Sodium, we're going to round to 23.00. Oxygen is going to be 16.00. And hydrogen is rounded 1.01. And what you do with all of that is you have to add those together. And when you do that, you come out with 40.01 grams per mole. Box your answer, and there's number 9. So when you're solving for these molecular weights, make sure you take into account these subscripts that tell you how many atoms each of those elements you do have. And you should have no problem with it. On the back side of the sheet, everything stays the same except that when you're solving this time around, you're solving for a compound's molar mass instead of just an element. So just kind of like we did before in the previous exercise, make sure you take into account every element and add it all together to get a total for your molar mass. And that's how you solve this sheet.